Everybody's looking for somebody to drive. And if you don't take the wheel, show expertise, and show a clear path and process, well, then of course they're going to go, what about? And so we just kind of had to draw a line in the sand and say, this is it. This is going to be the inflection point. We're going to make that move. And it's hella scary. Do the thing. It's just a reminder that like we got into this to do stuff we care about. We got into this to have some kind of influence on the world. And if we're finding ourselves in a place where we're stuck in endless revisions and we feel like a tripod and we're doubting that our work matters, to remember that we own our own outcomes. We own our choices. Like, it is a choice.
On episode 331 of the podcast, you're going to learn how to transition from commercial work to creating original content that aligns with your values and vision from one of my favorite and most inspirational mentors in this space. You'll also understand that it's possible to fund your own original work. And then we'll also cover the importance of identifying your target audience and market. You are gonna be inspired. So inspired, you'll punch your microphone to pursue your passion project, trust your creative instincts, and do the thing that brings you joy and fulfillment. So pumped you're here. Let's get into it. What's up, friend? I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast. This is the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers where we talk about the business of video production. Not sure where you're at in your own video business, but I would like to share with you my free 6-figure filmmaker workshop where I break down my best takeaways for growing my own 7-figure video production business over the past 18 years. It is my gift to you for being a listener, for hanging out with me. You can get immediate access to this free workshop by going to studiosherpas.com/workshop. Again, it is studiosherpas.com/workshop. There are a lot of actionable things in there. I try to paint the picture. I've made a lot of mistakes over the last 18 years, and I've done some things well, and I want you to be able to learn from the things that have worked for me so that you can move faster in your business and get some insights and just grow something that is amazing and that is sustainable for you and whatever vision you have for your life. So go grab that, and let's jump into this super fun episode with Patrick Moreau. What's up, friends? Welcome to this coffee talk hour with... Oh, where's my coffee? Yeah, okay. Hi, welcome back. I'm super excited for today's episode. I have with me our, I think, the reigning champ of most appearances on this show, my friend, Patrick Moreau, Ooh. Founder of Muse Storytelling, also known as a nice Canadian. Patrick, super happy to have you back on the show.
Always wonderful to be here. Love doing your live events or coming on here. We always have a great time.
That's right. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, presenter at the Onward Summit, and just all of the things. For those of you who might be new to the show, or me or Patrick, Patrick and I got to meet well over a decade ago, and you've been an inspiration for me. You continue to, which is just hilarious. Like, even what you guys have been doing the last month, we have in our weekly team meeting, the person of the week gets to share an inspirational film or something. An inspirational film. And I shared your, I forget what you titled it, but when you guys were in Iceland, and
do the thing.
Oh,
yes,
dude.
It was a reminder to us as storytellers that despite how bad things can look, what we do actually matters, right? Like that rallying cry.
So we play the video, we got the lights off, and because I watched the video on my own, I was like, dude, it's just so good. It's such a fresh perspective on what we all probably forget in the midst of running a business and the chaos of all of the things. I played it for my team. Lights go on, and one of the guys looks over and goes, "That sucked," and it was like. It was a joke because it was like one of the most inspiring things that we've seen. So, man, I appreciate your perspective. Thank you for rocking the boat. Thank you for waking us up. And I'm excited for this sort of like this new season, new chapter that we got a taste of at the Onward Summit. We got to screen your new film. bring us up to speed on what's exciting, what you guys have going on right now, because it's pretty cool.
I think I followed a journey like a lot of people listening to this, and that you find some way into the filmmaking industry. Not most of us have a formal education. Like not most of us do film school. It's from some other thing. Mine was psychology and weddings and that kind of thing. And then you kind of get into it, and there's the kind of work you want to do, which I thought was commercial. Big brands and Four Seasons and Fujifilm, and like I thought that would scratch the itch kind of thing. And after years of doing that, very much realized, and it was always gnawing at the back of me, but it was like, you need to be telling your own stories. And Grant, one of our senior creative directors, he's been advocating for this, for a decade of like, get out there and like, let's make our own stuff. But it was that turn away from commercial work and saying, we are going to focus entirely on original content. Now, very fortuitously, we had raised over $1 million to make our last movie on crypto, and that gave us runway, right? So it's not like we just showed up Monday and said, we're never gonna, like, what we had was enough runway, and it started to become a distraction. Like, how do we also do this? Like, how do we do commercial work and also go over here and focus on this big film? And so we just kind of had to draw a line in the sand and say, this is it. This is going to be the inflection point. We're going to make that move. And it's hella scary because it's like, there's a repeatability and a comfort to commercial work, even though we can complain about it a lot, right? Like, it's nice having a client every month, every couple of months, the recurring payments, that kind of thing. So that's been our transition. We've got a new film we're taking on this year. We're in the process of selling the last one, trying to figure out this brave new world.
I was going to ask, like, is there a healthy rhythm in the world of, corporate commercial? It's like, man, if we had retainer clients, then we wouldn't have to think so hard about what our next client is going to be. If you don't have retainer clients, then it's like, okay, it's feast or famine. You're doing the project. And then when you find some time to do some marketing or some reaching out or taking people out to lunch and just trying to build your network and expand in this new venture, this new approach to how you're doing this, which I just feel like almost every single person listening to this is like, well, yeah, that's the dream, is to do whatever films inspire us, which may or may not be corporate and commercial and weddings, whatever, but probably not. There's things that I just care so deeply about. So what are you discovering that might be like, yeah, like we're seeing like we might have to, this might be the rhythm for doing this?
Well, I think one thing is we're looking to take on featured documentaries that have a budget that allow our studio to operate for at least 12 months. So like from a management standpoint, general operational costs, that kind of thing. Yeah. So we're not looking to do a film at $200,000. We're, being a team of 6-7 people, like we need to make sure that we can actually kind of get by. So we're approaching with that mindset, which already rules out 80% of the, opportunities for us, because documentaries are selling for $300,000-$400,000 these days. Yep. So if you'd like to be profitable, you got to make it for less. Now, a smaller studio might be able to do that, but we are thinking about our costs and runway and going, okay, so this has got to get us by, for this long. And then I think in the same way you think about retainer clients and that sort of thing, how do we create passive revenue, but in ways in which we control the content and we control the ideas, and ideally that we believe have a little bit more impact. So, we believe a lot in education and building up our education side. We're launching a YouTube channel. We're doing weekly episodes. Like, we're going all in. But again, like as we do it, it's like, this is ours. Like we own these ideas. We get to creative direct. There's no stakeholder telling us that this thing's got to change because, Sally in reception didn't like it. So that kind of thing is what's exciting. So we are trying to build up passive revenue through work we really care about, and then kind of looking for that one large project a year, which to, somebody listening could be a couple, but, a couple, smaller, medium-sized projects as well. It's a slower burn to get a $1-2 million investment in an idea. Like it's not, the sales cycle takes a while. But that model, right, of kind of going, hold on, instead of doing, I don't know, how many video projects y'all do in a year?
I don't even know, dozens and dozens.
50? 100?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But they're thinking of, okay, if we're doing 50 times whatever that price is, what if we did one for the total amount? Like that is the math, but then at the same time you realize Is that a look of pain?
Yeah, I think so. It's like a look of pain and a look of wow, what would that look like? One.
Right. And now start going, okay, so we don't have 49 other clients. We have one,
right,
or none.
Right.
Right. We don't have 49 other deliverables. We have one.
Yeah.
Like, so the efficiency you then get also comes way down. And so that's the exciting part. We are able to go out, make our own films, and focus a lot more, like really live in creative on like small things for a while, which I keep getting reminded of whenever I see something. You watch the Oscars, you watch an award show, you watch, Netflix, and you see something you like, the best work, like those directors, those creatives, they don't do this while juggling 50 other things.
Right.
Like Steven Spielberg made The Fabelmans with his co-writer over like 6 months of daily Zoom calls. You know what I mean? You're like, when's the last time we spent that long writing, like just developing an idea, So it's giving yourself the space to like try and live at that level, or at least reach that level.
Yeah. So the crypto film was just fascinating. I mean, the characters were just like, just fascinating. So you create original content. Are these things that you're like, man, what would be really cool is let's create a film about crypto, or let's create a film about and then you start shopping that idea around, or are you connected with people that are like, Patrick, we've got an idea for a film, and then you're listening and you're like, that actually sounds super exciting. We're interested. Like, let's talk more. Is it a combination of both? Like what? I mean, kind of why I'm asking this is because there are some people that like think that they have $1 million idea for a film when it's really a terrible idea for a film, and they should really be connecting with other people that have the idea and they have the know-how how to make it. So where do you guys fall in that like ideation and?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would even say, if I can just take that a little bit higher level, the 101, and I didn't know any of this getting into this, which is why I think it might be valuable. The 101 of just making original films is, one, it can happen both ways. So like you can find an idea and you can pursue that, that line of thinking, and then try and raise investment or just make it and sell it. With the crypto film, we were introduced to the character, right? And, I literally got, my texts were just blowing. You got to check this guy. You got to check this guy out. He's got a top hat. He's talking in front of a velvet curtain on how to give a good apology. He's wearing 4 Rolexes worth $3 million. I'm like, no, thank you. But he didn't let up. And then we got on the phone with the actual guy that we ended up making the movie on. He's such a compelling character. We meet him. We're like, okay, like this is the Tiger King of crypto. And then we found a way to raise money for that. But that is us. You know what I mean? We developed that and we said, we want to do this. Now let's try and raise the money. The other way is that sometimes people will bring things to us. Right. And so the film we're doing this year is of the most prolific pop artist of our time. His name's Moreau. He's done the Super Bowl, he's done FIFA, he's done, the Olympics, but like as an artist, like he's designed the floats. So they do hundreds of millions of dollars a year in selling his art, like just global. And so that one, the CEO reached out and said, we're looking to do a documentary. We think your team would be great. In either case, the single biggest thing to get is a life rights. So like getting a life rights agreement from the talent is the thing that gives you access and exclusivity. So you've got to have a term, right? Like, do I want 6 or 12 months? But that's the thing that allows you to then go sell to either an investor or to a network, because anybody can make a film on anybody. Like you can look at the McAfee stuff all over streamers. A lot of them were done without his permission, and they're not nearly as good. They don't have access, right? But if I go to Hulu or whatever network, and I've got a life rights, it means I've got access, I've got their buy-in, and it's a much better story, and nobody else can tell this story. So however it comes to you securing that life rights, which is a simple legal document that, LegalZoom will give you for $100. But once you have that, that becomes the investment tool. And then the biggest insight I would say that we've learned out of that is you're going to people who have a high degree of interest in the film itself. Right? Like we're not going to VC firms going, have we got an investment for you? It's called movie making, like in just pitching a wild idea, versus what's a community, either crypto, let's go to a crypto community that likes this one, or what about the fan base of this artist? who in that circle would be interested. And that's been the thing that's worked, right? Secure the life rights, get the structure in place, get the agreements in place with the idea of if we raise funding, we can make it, then go to the communities behind those groups or people, and see if you can find either a large group at a small amount or a singular individual who'd go, yeah, I've got the room. And I have one more thing to share if you'd like me to keep going, but
Please.
I feel like
Yeah.
you I don't want to.
You're not even close to the other one.
I think here's in doing all of this, the mindset shift that we've come to in like raising investment and in, making these films is that, like, yes, we're making the film because we care about it and we believe, the world needs to know about blockchain and crypto as an example. But a lot of people are investing for the experience as opposed to for the return or for, and it's just a mindset shift because we often think like, I need a couple $100,000 to make this movie. Who's somebody who really cares about the cause or like that kind of thing? And actually, when you're quite wealthy, it turns out we can offer you an experience nobody else can. To be on a big movie set, to be an executive producer, to like get VIP access to premieres, like all of these things that if we do them very well, they are worth, that kind of thing. And that's more what's drawing people in is they want to be a part of something remarkable, which is, the level we try and operate at. But that's the thing that's pulling them in, as opposed to this is not a numbers game. That's what I'm trying. Not that we're trying to deliver a bad return, but we're not getting these agreements going, well, if we sell it to this network for this much, plus we monetize here and do this and this, your return will be 12%. But like, there's a business model behind it, but it's more so people are buying into the experience. They want to be a part of something remarkable.
Yeah, I love that. That's super interesting. And it wasn't even until somewhat recently, somebody had approached me and said like, hey, like, I know this director and there's an opportunity. If you know anybody that wants to invest, like there's an opportunity for return. I was like, oh my gosh, like obviously like I should have known that, but I'm like, oh, like there is opportunity. Like if this thing sells for way more than anybody thinks, it's like, wow, you could actually make a lot of money doing this. But to your point, I mean, we've run into people where we just are wrapping a documentary that somebody approached this university and said, we want a film on this basketball coach. His story, he's meant the world to us. We've got all this money. We want to do this. And for them, like there's no return. It's just like, we know having this, like the experience, the fulfillment that will come in other people knowing this story, right? Like being a part of creating, helping somebody know this legacy, right? So there's that part of the experience too, which is like, oh man, there's all sorts of opportunities for people to, oh, there's money. There's like, oh, I can be on set. Like that's really, how else can I do that? I can be executive producer, or like I can actually help move this thing and be a part of this, legacy or whatever this might be. Yeah.
And with your example there, we can sometimes get caught in paradigmatic thinking and think like, oh, well, I'm a commercial filmmaker. Like, my studio does this kind of thing. And so we get these opportunities and we don't necessarily go, oh, well, this could be on Hulu or a Tubi or whatever. But like, if you're making things 15, 20 minutes and up, all you need is a sales agent and they can start shopping that. Right? Like, and you need a sales agent because of legal stuff around. You can't go direct because everybody doesn't want to talk directly to a filmmaker in case another idea goes out there or whatever. Right. So you've got to go through the sales agent, but you can actually shop and sell that. And there is a lot of demand right now for content. Right now, like, is that a $50,000, $75,000 deal? Like, it's not like it's crazy when you're doing a local story at a high level, but still. That can be not only a return, but it can also be distribution. Like it can be millions of views. It can be that kind of thing. Yeah. And so there is a lot of opportunity that way outside of the traditional festival route, where you can just, cold emails, sales agents. I have a thing. I'd like to get it distributed. Will you take a look? Here's the deck. And they can go direct out and they can, they can sell it. So I think it's also being open to that way of thinking and not going, well, is it too small or is it too local or is it too whatever? There is such a hunger for content right now on different networks.
I'm curious, like when you have this investor that's like, oh yeah, I want to give you this money. I'll get the executive producer title. I'll come on set, but is there like, okay, they're invested financially. So we are gonna kind of have to listen to like what they don't like. They definitely don't want this first clip that we opened with. Like, how much of that have you guys experienced, at least up till this point?
Zero. but however, I will say, not that people haven't had opinions. Of course, but we'll always listen to great ideas, whether they're an investor or not. But I would say that the biggest thing is we approach original work in the same way we approach commercial work, which is everybody's looking for somebody to drive. And if you don't take the wheel, show expertise, and show a clear path and process, well, then of course they're going to go, what about? Yep. But we stay so far in front of that where we're like, here's the creative process. Here's what we're going to do. Here's where we want your feedback, right? Like we're going to align on the objective and the characters and the storyboards and walk them through it. That it makes it so much easier to go back to those things, and we build so much trust in our expertise and our ability to execute that the ideas become like, hey, if you wanted to, consider this, but like you don't even have to reply. Like it's not a, serious come back to me if or whatever. But that's very intentional. It's a lot of time building up that kind of relationship that I don't think a lot of us value enough. And I know you have training on this, on how to lead sales meetings and how to lead clients. And it's that same leadership from a creative standpoint that works in this space too. So that they know that we have the same end goal in mind and that our expertise will help them get there. So they don't feel this need of like, oh, what if you rearrange this sequence or cut this or move this or whatever else. So it's been with the last movie, it was very smooth in getting 5-7 people on board with a final cut. Like really no big hurdles there.
It's so funny. I'm just having flashbacks of like one of our biggest projects ever where our client was like, executive producer, putting all this money behind this film. It was a passion project for her, and her former life, she was a producer. So this story just like, edit upon edit, and she wanted to see it this way. And then, sometimes we'd be back to how it was, the first time, and other times it would change. And, and we've had it both ways. Like this most recent piece, it's like, there's hardly any feedback. They're trusting the process and they're just kind of go with it. But personality, background, and also like, I will say that this executive producer, a lot of her ideas were actually really good. So, and maybe that's kind of this, like in that relationship, we sort of trusted we were linking arms and doing this together, the creative process. Cause we're like, actually that is good and probably better than the initial idea. So maybe that's where that opportunity opened for more than, not more than we bargained for, because I think we invited that. And it's maybe about setting those expectations up front and just being very clear on like who's running the ship and like who's doing the thing and who's not doing the thing.
Yeah, but I think from a common destination standpoint, as opposed to a power standpoint, like sometimes we can come to it from a power, like I'm the director, like this is our film, you hired us, we're and like that comes off as combative versus this is where we want to get you, right? Like you've hired us, this is where we want to get you, or as a team, if we're investing in something, and here's how our expertise will help us get us there, and here's the steps we're going to take you through, and that's exciting, right? Like you're telling a vision story that's inspiring. And so it's a pull rather than a push. I think that goes a long way. And then also having the humility to know you don't have all the ideas. Like being open to, like you said, somebody else has a great idea and not just shut it. Well, no, it's like, it's our film. We don't, because I think both of those kind of bite us in the ass sometimes where we think we have to have all the ideas, or we think that this has to be some kind of battle as opposed to going, how do I make this frictionless and show that us working together actually gets you to a better place. Yeah,
I love that. That's good. And I'm grateful to have not really experienced many directors and other creative people that are that like, well, this is our thing. And like, it's just like, like that's so foreign to what we're all about, what we care about. I'm curious, as you like vision cast and think about the future, think like 3 years from now, heading in the direction that you guys are going in, like what would, if everything worked out the way that you wanted it to in 3 years, what would the business look like? What kind of films would you be doing? What does all of that look like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the next step after doing original work is being able to fund your own original work, is removing the whole need for investors altogether. Right. So then it's just, okay, the world is our canvas. Like, what story do we want to tell? And you still need to have the acumen to understand how to make it so a distributor wants it so that people see it. Because otherwise, in my opinion, it's not going to largely matter in the same way. But that would be our hope, is that we're able to actually fund our own films. And then it would be to, going back to the Iceland video and do your thing and do shit that matters. It would be about finding, I'm very passionate about climate change, about those kinds of things. But like, how would world-class storytellers come together to tackle an issue like that and help make it approachable for people in an inspiring way? I haven't seen much like that, So I'd be looking for opportunities like that and going, okay, how do we take these big different problems and create stories around them that bring people into the conversation in the way that we know story can?
Yeah, so good. When you talk about like picking, say you're doing you're funding your own films. And like I said, over the last 20 years, I don't know how many directors or people that want to be directors, I got this idea for film. And, I'm like, that doesn't sound like anybody's going to watch that or pay for that. Are there any, I don't know, techniques or strategies for people to test out ideas that they might have, that they might think that this is $1 million idea, and if I could just get the funding, or if I could figure out how to do this on my own, this would work? It's a kind of a risky line of thinking without doing any type of homework. But what kind of thing or things might people consider to test their idea and see if it is something that might work?
One is just to understand. Is to look at the landscape and see if you can find like a comp set, comparisons, right? Like the moment I tell you that our movie is the Tiger King of crypto, you get it, right? Like you get what we're talking about. Now I'm not overselling on that because you've seen it.
Yes.
Like Richard
Very
Hart
accurate.
is the Tiger, like he is that out there.
Yeah.
But you're looking at what are the other, comparable things of what I'm looking to do that suggests that there's, demand. And then how did they do? Mm-hmm. Did people watch them? That sort of thing. The other part then is looking at what kind of community or following or fan base, right? Because they're going to be not only your potential financial backers, but then also your best audience and super fans.
Right.
So if you're, many years ago, that's how Indie Game Movie was made, the documentary that, did very well in awards and Kickstarter and everything else. But it was just by going to the community that was behind that, right? So like whoever had that idea in doing the analysis and going, there's a very active community, they're then going to support it. So I think it's checking out that. And then the last part is who's interested in this story from a very large, like we have people watch the crypto movie and go, this is primarily North American, based on the values of amassing wealth and like that kind of thing. It's like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. That like, of course, you know what I mean? There are going to be other places in the world like that will not identify at all with how this character talks about becoming rich beyond your wildest dreams and like that like there's certain demos and places in the world where like they get that. Other places are like, I'm lost. Like I don't want to watch this anymore. So what is that market? Because if you're doing a story on a local, football coach, you could make the argument that that's a local story. That like, maybe Michigan or Detroit or, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But if you can make a series on the top coaches across the country, well, now that could definitely run nationally. So it's how you think about it and how you're making it. Can you make it in a way that it's going to go beyond the subject matter? Mm-hmm. That it's going to be more than just the story of, that high school or that college coach that's local. What is the bigger thing that's going to draw somebody in California who, who either doesn't watch football or, isn't from this area? If you can answer those questions, that's when you start having something, right? The larger the community and the larger the audience, the more opportunity you have to whether you get fundraising, but also even just to sell it. Because that's what it comes down to for distributors. It's eyeballs. Yeah. Like it's not, I really like your story and it's very profound. Like the world needs your story or this is great. Like it's eyeballs, right? Like how many people are going to watch this because they're selling subscriptions. Yeah. So it's running time and, amount of views. So if you can make compelling content that can kind of transcend the subject matter or the location, that kind of thing, then you've got a much better shot at the idea being viable on a large level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. That's super helpful. I'm curious too, people might be hearing you talk and they're like, wow, this is cool. Like Patrick figured it out. They're producing original content, $1 million. Wow. What are the guts of what are the core, if I was to build a core team to try to do this, what are the essential elements in your mind for think typical or average video production person? Maybe they're a solopreneur. Maybe they have a small team like we do. What are the core elements, the core kind of things that you're like, man, if you're gonna create original content, you need this kind of a personality, somebody who's gifted at this, and this. Like, what would some of those things look like in your mind?
I mean, you story finder, right? I mean, we go back to story. It's in our name. So that person who is most akin to a researcher, but is able to just go out and find unbelievably compelling characters, right? We're looking for a teacher in this documentary we're making now that teaches this artist's work in their classroom. It'd be easy to just go find a teacher down the road.
Right.
We need the best teacher in North America who is just going to be off the charts if, we're able to create this experience. And so the story finder is the person who's able to find amazing stories, characters, people, opportunities, not just the easy, layup option, that kind of thing. So a story finder, certainly a high level, senior producer, because the larger you go, the more important these relationships are. We all know that filmmaking, is mostly about solving problems. Well, the larger your budgets get, the larger the expectations, the larger the problems, and the larger the personalities. You know what I mean? Like we were doing an interview in DJ Khaled's backyard a couple of weeks ago for this documentary. They invite us over to his house, and then the morning of, it's like, oh, he decided he didn't want to do it. and no context on exactly what or why or whatever, but it's like, our senior producer on the project, I need you to fix this.
Yeah.
We need this interview. And she handled it masterfully. And we got 12 and a half minutes in his backyard, and the interview is beautiful and it adds so much. But somebody who you can trust, they can handle that, you know what I mean? And get that kind of thing done. You need a sales agent, but sales agents are generally going to be commission based. So that's great. They're not on your payroll. They get a commission anywhere from 10 to 50%. And maybe even higher, depending on your, how much of a market, how much work, what this is going to sell for, and what they're going to need to do. If you've got a trailer and a pitch deck and everything's ready and it's a great piece, you're going to be able to negotiate that rate down versus if they need to help you, with a lot of that. And then an account manager or the person who's managing the investors and the relationships, the sales agent, all of that. Generally, that might be you as the founder or the lead of the company. But if that's not your skill set, you're going into very hard conversations, needing to get people on board with how you're going to spend their $1 million, and that you're going to do it at your own discretion. You know what I mean? Because we're not checking before we go and book and spend $50,000 over here on a shoot. That's not why you do original work, to then go have to check. Can we fly here, please? Can we film this, please? So you need somebody who can actually, handle that well. And then obviously the directing, the actual creative vision. That to me would be kind of the small team that would be able to pull it off. We often then will work with freelancers outside of that, so that we're making sure we're bringing people who are interested in the subject matter. Right? Because the editor, the DP, cinematographers, they need to care about the story, as opposed to in the past, we would have done salaried team members, but then you're getting then it's commercial work for you as a team member. You have to do this story, and you might go, I don't really, I don't care about or crypto or whatever, versus finding the filmmaker that is oh my God, I love it. I want to be a part of this. So, story finder, producer, account manager kind of thing, which the producer might be able to do both, the sales agent, and then the director.
So between you and Grant, which roles do you guys play?
So Grant is our senior creative director. He and I directed the last movie, The Highest of Stakes, together. And he plays a large role. He's an executive producer in this movie. So he helps with some of the bigger conversations, some of the investor relationships, and then I would be directing this film. And that's really because we're then trying to get a series greenlit. So having him have room and our YouTube and all the other kinds of things, right? Yep. So trying to split up that way.
And so story finding, I feel like both of you guys sort of share some of those skills.
We are more story finding from a directing standpoint.
Yeah.
So like we'll do the final calls, right? Like we'll call with Richard Hart before deciding if we're going to make the move. But we have one of our creative producers, Evan, is just amazing at that, and she'll go out and talk to 100 teachers, bring back the top 3, get us casting videos. We look at them, and then it's like we'll talk to the top couple ones. So it's on us to create the archetype of who do we need and where do we need and what are we trying to achieve and set the vision. And then they've got to go find like that perfect person. And it's just such a difference.
Yeah. That's pretty fascinating to think of it at that level. And, I think, and it probably, again, maybe it goes without saying, but to realize that there's different skill sets, there's different needs for what's needed. Can I say that? Is that like too?
Yeah. There are very specific skills. And as filmmakers, I think a lot of your audience would probably consider themselves generalists.
Right.
By necessity. We do so many things. We shoot, we edit, we whatever. But what happens as any, tech company scales is they start learning that you've got to go away from generalists and into specialists if you want to be really great at something.
Yeah.
And so where we start kind of leaning as well is like we need specialists in certain areas to just do these things really well. Right. And whereas before it would be like, well, everybody's going to do a little bit of everything and we'll just do it as a team of 3. It's like, no. We need somebody who's going to solve that DJ Khaled problem. And like, and everybody's going to be happy and everything else. But like, that's your specialty. You own all of that. And you're not going to have to worry about touching or knowing what a C-stand is or like anything else.
Yeah, that's cool. You guys are overhauling all of your education stuff, which has been so helpful for so many people. With the overhaul, are you including some of this, like, originals, like how you guys are going about this, how you're finding somebody that can do sales? Like, is any of that, are you guys including any of that kind of stuff in the new education?
Yeah. I mean, in making this turn, I was kind of going, where does education fit? Like, are we updating it? Are we just like leaving it there and like, doing an online class every year? And then I started reviewing it, and it's the frog in the pot of boiling water. You know what I mean? The water
Somebody
rises.
told me that actually
like,
is not true, but I know what you mean.
I don't want to test it.
I don't want to test it either.
But it had been so long, and then I looked back, and I was like, this stuff's bad. Like looking at our own content, going like, this is not like we have grown so much in our ability to communicate it, our understanding of these ideas, like everything else. And so it was like, we need to rewrite this from scratch. The science is the same. Our ability to articulate it and our examples are different. And it's got to go beyond. It started as just the science of storytelling, a process for finding and telling a story. But like, you also need help going in the field and bringing it to life and dealing with challenges. You also need help with how to interview people and get that vision you had, in a incredibly emotional way. And then you need, how do you actually sell this to a client or an investor? How do you retain creative control? How do you sell $1 million project? And so it's gone from just story as a more, I want to understand it, become an expert, to also, how do I bring it to life in the field? And then how do I manage the business side? So much more of a 360 and much more of a, everything that we've learned to this date. How do we break that down into 3 sections that is, your creative understanding, your execution, and your client management, account building, that kind of thing. And that's been fun, to engage the team of like, what have we learned? How do we need to, put this together, and have, Caitlin, our VP of production, be able to share all the ways we've lost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in her, profitable production section, kind of going, here's the budget template. Here's where like we started. So it's been a really fun overhaul and exciting to start seeing it come together. We're a couple months out from being able to deliver because, we built a whole set, shot it on Red, very, very intentional, exciting content, but it's a long post process for 51 modules.
Oh, baby. Why don't you just do 52? Then you could have had like one for every week.
If only we had talked about this before, that would have been a wonderful idea.
You can always do a bonus module. Just like throw it in there, slap it in there.
There we go. We'll just have to figure out this will be the bonus module. And if you've come to the end,
there you
this
go.
Is your grand finale.
Oh, dude. Always good catching up with you, man. Again, thank you for all that you do. What did I forget to ask, or what's like a nugget you want to leave us with?
Do the thing. I mean, you saw the Iceland video.
Yeah.
Most of the people watching this have not, but it's just a reminder that like we got into this to do stuff we care about. We got into this to have some kind of influence on the world. And if we're finding ourselves in a place where we're stuck in endless revisions and we feel like a tripod and we're doubting that our work matters, to remember that we own our own outcomes. Yeah. We own our choices. Like, it is a choice. And to like work through that, to go out there and tell those stories and know that you don't need to have somebody pay you to do it. You know what I mean? Like, so much of the most powerful work I've ever done that is the most memorable and influential on me, I just picked up a camera and did it. Yeah. Like, got out there and used my skill set. So it's a reminder that it is a choice. Our life is a choice. Get out there and like do those things and own where you're at, as opposed to sometimes playing victim to our clients, our situation, or whatever, and allowing far too much time to go by before we actually make the things that make us come alive.
Mm-hmm. So good. I think that's what I said to my daughter as I dropped her off at middle school today. I was like, are you going to... Wait, no, I said, I was asking her like, what's your goal for today? Or what are you looking forward to? And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, Charlotte, are you going to let the day happen to you, or are you going to happen to the day? And then her life changed. No, I think she rolled her eyes and then she got out of the car. I still told her I loved her. Yeah.
But in 10 years, that's going to matter. Like it will hit.
Oh man.
I guarantee it. The way you approach how you raise her and help her see the world, I guarantee that she'll come back to that and go, like, she will approach the world differently because you're having those conversations now. So massive kudos to take the eye rolls and still have the conversation because it is such a difference.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, where can people find out more about you, Muse Storytelling, all the fun things?
Storyfirst.com is our educational website. That's where you can sign up if you would like to get more information when this course launches, depending on when this episode airs. But we're a couple months out from launching, but that's where you can learn more about what we're doing. And we also have a weekly YouTube show that's going to be coming out. So all that kind of stuff, storyfirst.com.
And the YouTube channel is Muse Storytelling?
At Muse Storytelling.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much, Patrick. So good to be with you.
Thank you. Always appreciate having a lively conversation.
All right, my friend, grab the show notes from this episode at studiosherpas.com/331. There you'll find the links and all the other things that Patrick and I talked about. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, if you've got a takeaway, something that you want to share, please leave a comment. Let us know. Engage. Enter the conversation. Let's create a conversation. And if you just want to shoot a message to me directly, feel free to email me, ryan@studiosherpas.com. I love seeing your feedback, your thoughts, your questions. However I can help you grow your video business, I want to be able to do that. So please take advantage of that. If you love this show, do me a favor, take a screenshot. What do you call it? My kids make fun of me for calling it I forget which one is the one not to call it. Do that and hit the share button and share it with somebody that you think might get something out of this episode. I'd be super grateful for that. And if you really like the show, take 90 seconds and leave a thoughtful review. You can do that at Spotify or the Apple Podcasts place. So anyway, I appreciate you so much. We've got some really cool stuff cooking. I'm getting really excited to share. I can't share all the things. I got to tease you. I got to keep you coming back. So come back for next week's episode. We got another jam-packed episode on the way for you. And until then, I'll talk to you. Feel free to reach out if you need anything, and I'll talk to you real soon. See ya.